compare how the Niners handed Jimmy Garoppolo the reins versus how they're not handing Trey Lance the reins to the franchise.
Well, right, when he first got traded to the Niners, right, it was midseason. Then they remember Kyle held him back because he felt like he didn't know the playbook, and then finally they just kind of had to, right? Because like, was it CJ Beathard was totally tanking it, and they were like, screw it, right? Just put him in.
Yep.
And they started winning, right?
Yes.
But the Niners were not a good team at that point, and then the following year, he was a starter, and there wasn't extremely high expectations that year either. So he got the benefit of low expectations and not having to deal with a lot of pressure. Like there's always pressure with being an NFL quarterback, and I think being the quarterback of the 49ers. I mean, there's a standard level of pressure.
Right. But the bar had been lowered significantly. It was like, be better than Brian Hoyer and CJ Beathard.
Absolutely. Yeah. And did they even win a game? Had they even won a game before Jimmy Garoppolo stepped on the field? And
CJ Beathard won a game, and the Niners carried him off the field. Not really, but they partied they celebrated that win like they just won the national championship.
Right. And if people remembered that year, and I think they forget because they talk about Jimmy winning games, the 49ers were losing games, so they were losing very close games. So, and I don't think anyone's really ever said Jimmy Garoppolo isn't like he's not a bottom, like shouldn't be on a roster quarterback, or he's not a third string quarterback. I think everyone can mostly agree that he's a starting level quarterback. Or
I wouldn't say that.
Can you agree even if he's a high level backup quarterback?
The highest. He's such a good backup. He's such a leader as a backup. I love that about him. His locker room presence.
There's right, but we're saying there's a big difference between Nick Mullen. I think.
There is of course.
Right, and
although I just want to point out, because I was a Nick Mullen fan number one, the Niners did beat the Rams with Nick Mullins when Deebo Samuel was healthy. So I really feel like Deebo Samuel and George Kittle made Jimmy Garoppolo look a lot better than he was, and I'm really looking forward to Jimmy's next stop. And the Niners won't let me. We need to know. I need to know the truth about Jimmy. I think I know, but we're gonna find out, and I hope it's soon.
You were covering the team during that transition to Jimmy Garoppolo, right?
Yes.
All right. Like when they traded for Jimmy Garoppolo and then they got him and he played those 4 games coming into the next season, were there any questions as to who are the quarterback going to be? Like, were they like, oh, it's going to be we're not really sure. We're gonna go to camp and kind of let it work out.
Yeah, we're bringing back Hoyer.
yeah.
We're bringing back Hoyer. No, I mean for 4 years the Niners really made it their business to not challenge Jimmy at all. They didn't draft quarterbacks. They had Beathard and Mullins. And frankly, like those guys, the fact that Mullins even ever made it interesting between the two is telling. But it was never a competition. Kyle would even say, like, Jimmy's our quarterback. He's $27 million. He's our franchise quarterback. It's not even a question. And they won't do that. It was like they were almost doing a little bit of like emotional hand-holding for Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, hey, you're our guy. You're our guy. Don't worry. They won't do that for Trey Lance at all.
Right. So, okay, with Lance. They kind of did the same thing with Lance as they didn't want Jimmy to play. Now this year they didn't want Lance to play, and they only played him when they were forced to, when we got hurt. So
that's true.
Okay, so that's kind of the same. But now in a transition period where it should be transitioning to
also the Niners were eliminated from the freaking playoffs. So go knock yourself out. There was no pressure in those games.
Yeah, right. Zero pressure. Eliminated.
Zero pressure.
Yeah.
Lance had to come in and save the playoff run week 16.
Right. If they didn't win that game, they're not going to the playoffs.
No.
So it's still the Texans were still an NFL team, right? They're still an NFL team. Jacksonville beat who they beat who they beat at the end of the season that and I think did they knock them out of the playoffs?
Yeah.
But
Jacksonville beat Indianapolis.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Indianapolis. Jones beat Indianapolis, knocked them out of the playoffs, which Jacksonville hadn't beaten them in so long, and they did. Yeah. So I think that's a big accomplishment.